Dr. Leiter is a seasoned policy expert and public servant. He previously held senior roles in the Israeli government, including with Prime Minister Ariel Sharon and then Finance Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Ambassador Leiter has served valiantly in the IDF and fought in the 1982 Lebanon War. He has also sacrificed mightily as his eldest son, Major Moshe Leiter, a medical doctor and an IDF Special Forces officer, fell in combat in Gaza on November 10th, 2023. May his memory be a blessing. We're fortunate to have an ambassador here in the United States with such storied experience in public service, policy analysis, and advocacy. We are very grateful that he has taken his time today to update us on the latest developments concerning Israel's effort to permanently defang the Iranian regime. Thank you, Dr. Leiter, and welcome.
Thank you, Pastor Hagee. A beautiful introduction.
Thank you for being here, Dr. Leiter. Thank you to everybody that has joined this special briefing for the Christian Zionist community as Israel is at war. Dr. Leiter, so much has happened in the past 6 days. What can you tell our viewers in terms of what Israel has been able to accomplish since the start of this operation?
Well, first of all, let me just say, Sandy, that I do want to express a debt of gratitude, really speaking on behalf of the Israeli people. You know, we embarked on this war. We embarked on this strike against an Iran intent on destroying the state of Israel. But we can only do so because of the support of friends that we have around the world. And we have no better friend than Pastor Hagee, your mother Diane. I mean, look, you have been at this. Your family has been at this for decades. You've raised millions of dollars on behalf of Israel. CUFI is known to every Jew and every Israeli as being a staunch friend. You know, my son, who your father mentioned in his introduction, when he was preparing his troops for war, he said, look, when you go into the battlefield, there's chaos. The bombs go off, the skies light up, the earth shakes, and you lose your compass. You forget where you are. And he said the way that you have to keep focused is to always ask yourself, where am I? Where are my friends? And where's the enemy? And if you keep thinking to yourself, are we back on?
We're on.
And he said, if you keep thinking to yourself, where am I? Where are my friends? Where's the enemy? You won't lose your grounding in the middle of chaos.
Wow.
And I take my son's lessons with me every day, because it's not only where you are and where your friends are and where the enemy is, but it's also who you are and who your friends are and who the enemy is. We've got a lot of confusion over the past few decades with this postmodern ideas, this moral relativism that has seeped into our society. And we've forgotten who we are and who our friends are. Well, I want to tell you something. Every Jew who knows who they are also knows who our friends are. And you are real friends, okay? The best friends we have. So I begin by saying thank you, because we're supposed to begin our day in the morning every day by saying Modeh ani lefanecha. Before we say anything, we say Modeh. Modeh means thank you. I thank you, God, for bringing life back into me. That's the first thing that you have to say. I thank you. Expressing thanks. So the first thing I want to say to you, Sandy, is thank you. What have we accomplished? It's a great question, and I think it's an important opportunity to share with your viewers what we've accomplished. We did in 3 days what Russia, for example, hasn't accomplished in 3 years. Air superiority. Air superiority. We now have air superiority over Iran. It took us 3 days to accomplish it. There were literally lots of miracles, a lot of talent, a lot of courage, a lot of intelligence, but a lot of miracles, because within 90 seconds Thursday night, we took out 9 out of 11 senior nuclear scientists that were preparing the nuclear bomb for Iran. In the same 90 seconds, we took out 10 of the 12 generals that run the IRGC, which is the terror branch of the Ayatollah regime. And the Ayatollah, and everybody's asking, well, what's going to be with the Ayatollah? No, we're going to take him out or not. Right now, the Ayatollah is looking left, and he's got no more nuclear scientists left. Then he's looking to the right, he's got no more generals left. And the chief of staff we took out that night was replaced the following day, Friday afternoon. He lasted for 4 days. And that's a job description right now that not too many people are lining up to to accept.
Sure. The Ayatollah knows where his enemies are, but maybe less friends now thanks to Israel.
That's right. It was a great statement made the other day by the German Chancellor, Merz. And it's interesting to note that he made this statement right after he met with President Trump at the G7 in Canada. It's not a coincidence. Merz said, Israel is doing the dirty work for the entire world because this Iranian regime has spread death and destruction, murder and mayhem throughout the world. So we're leading the charge against this evil regime. We are focused on our goal, and our goal is to protect our state, to protect our people from nuclear obliteration. Our goal is not regime change, but if that happens, certainly I think history is going to be very kind to us. The Iranian people have to make that choice about regime change, but they haven't been allowed to because, Sandy, there's 15,000 political prisoners in Tehran simply because they oppose the Ayatollahs. So we're focused on preserving our life, removing this existential threat from over our heads. But if the Iranian people, this facilitates the ability for the Iranian people to rise up and change their regime, that's the answer to the question about regime change, not our responsibility, the responsibility of the Iranian people.
Well, you started with a thank you. I say it's our honor. Before the first bomb fell last week, the world already owed Israel a debt of gratitude for everything that Israel has done to protect the West in protecting itself in Iraq and again in Syria. And so we say to you now, thank you so much. Moving forward, I know we find ourselves in this perhaps interim time on the United States side, 2 weeks, what have you. Obviously, you speak for the nation of Israel. In terms of what you can share with the group, outside of continuing, of course, to protect your nation and its citizens, what do you see as left to be done in terms of permanently disabling the regime?
Well, we have obviously a war plan, and we're proceeding day after day with the plans. But at the end of the day, we have to appreciate that there's 3 major threats coming out of the Ayatollah regime. Number one is the nuclear bomb. Okay, for a nuclear bomb, you need enrichment of uranium, and you need to pair the enriched uranium with a delivery system, okay, with missiles that can bear the nuclear material, and it turns it into a nuclear bomb. So the Iranians were really weeks away from this ability to pair enriched uranium with a delivery system. Well, that's the first thing that has to be removed from the table. So we need to eliminate the enriched uranium, the production sites, all the sites that prepare the components for those 2 elements, the enriched uranium and delivery system. The second thing we have to confront are the ballistic missiles. Mm-hmm. And you see the missiles that have hit Israel over the past few days. By the way, I mean, they're targeting civilian population centers. Yeah. When we strike the generals that I mentioned before, or the production plants, if anybody's living in the neighborhood, we first tell them to get out. And you saw the long lines of Tehranis leaving Tehran to get out of harm's way. That's because we told them to, okay? It's important to appreciate that these ballistic missiles, if many thousands or maybe in hundreds are sent at the same time, many are going to get through our defensive shield system, okay? And what these ballistic missiles are, imagine a semi-trailer that you see on the highway, one of these huge semi-trailers on the expressway, packed with explosives, except they're not moving now at 70 miles an hour. They're moving at 400 miles an hour or 500 miles an hour, and they're careening through the sky like an airplane with full of TNT. They carry a tremendous payload, and the damage is incredibly extensive. And there's a quote by the Ayatollah, what he calls himself the supreme leader, in which he says, if we fire thousands of ballistic missiles all at once in Israel, what are they going to do? They're going to die. So even without a nuclear weapon,
sure.
Firing these ballistic missiles, and they're producing 300 a month. The plan is to produce 3,500 a year, 3 years, 10,000. Now, we have great defensive missile systems, okay? We've got our Arrow or David Sling, Iron Dome, and we've been blessed with a partnership with President Trump and the United States, provided us with defensive systems such as the THAAD missile system and the Aegis defense missile system. And these kind of speak to our defensive missile systems. They have a conversation, they work together. And we're able, together with all of these defensive missile systems, to keep about 80 to 85% of these ballistic missiles coming in from Iran. We're able to intercept them and explode them. I just got a picture this morning from one of my grandchildren holding a big piece of shrapnel, and
wow.
it fell into the backyard because it was an interceptor that hit one of the missiles, and shrapnel disperses throughout the atmosphere and lands anywhere. They're very, very dangerous, by the way. He found one in the backyard, apparently in the middle of the night. One of the interceptors worked. So these are still very, very dangerous. And, you can't possibly have, if there's going to be thousands of these ballistic missiles flying in at the same time, you can't possibly intercept them, only a few. So that's the second threat. The third one that has to be eliminated, is Iranian support for proxies, Iranian proxies that are malevolent actors around the world. You've got Iranian proxies working in South America to destabilize things. You've got Iranian actors operating in the Sahel, in West Africa, to destabilize things. And you've got the Middle East mired in the malevolent activity of Iranian proxies. But worst of all, we've got the proxies around Israel: Hamas, Houthis, Hezbollah, which everybody now knows who they are. They attack civilians. They slaughtered 1,200 of our civilians in one day, in a few hours, actually, on October 7th. And these proxies are all acting as emissaries, as the long arm, as the octopus of Iran. So we have worked diligently to diminish the proxies. My son was killed in the process of diminishing of fighting Hamas and Hezbollah in the north, and look what we've accomplished. I mean, who could have dreamed just a few years ago that we'd be fighting Iran? Not only would we eliminate their air defense systems in 3 days, but that Hezbollah wouldn't jump into the fray and fire their missiles. They've got tens of thousands of missiles in Lebanon. But now, because of the vision of our prime minister and decisions of our government, there is a government in Lebanon, after we struck the leadership of Hezbollah and took out so many of their missiles, there's a government in Lebanon right now that is committed to disarming the Hezbollah. Okay? And who
Very motivating.
Who could have imagined that the government of Syria, the Assad regime that was in power for so many years, in such a brutal totalitarian regime, would fall, and that now we'd have someone there who's at least sounding the right kind of music, at least saying he wants to live in peace with the region and accommodation, normalization. So this is the main point, and excuse me for a very long-winded answer, but
no, please.
Feel are very important. There's been some criticism and actually like a warning to Israel, and now some people are extending this to President Trump and saying, don't get involved, it's not your war, we don't want endless wars. We hear a lot of this now, and I think just some people are well-intentioned but very confused. What we're doing now is ending the long war. This is an endless war if we don't get involved, because they've been at war with the West ever since Khomeini came to power in 1979. He declared war on the West. He declared war on America. He's been leading the chants of death to America, death to Israel in Town Square in Tehran. He sent assassination squads to take out the President of the United States twice. He sent an assassination team to take out the former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He sent an assassination team to take out former National Security Advisor John Bolton. They try to kill Americans, and they've killed over 900 Americans. But they have proxies operating around the world in order to diminish the stature of the United States. So this is a war to end the war of the Ayatollahs against the West and to allow the region to embark on peace. It'll be peace through strength, the president's vision. Amen. But the Abraham Accords 2.0. This will be the first Trump administration on steroids in terms of normalization and peace. Any action that's taken to help us eliminate this threat from Iran means that we are depleting the chances for Iranian hegemony, which there's so much fear about that in the Emirates and in Saudi Arabia and Bahrain and the entire neighborhood. As soon as that is neutralized and there's no longer a fear of Iranian hegemony, of the extremists, the fundamentalists within the Muslim community, there's going to be a race to normalization and real peace.
Well, you mentioned people being confused, and I assure you, the people that are on this call, the Christian Zionists that are on this call, are not confused. They know that the Iranian proxies are the sons of Haman. Hitler, Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, we know where they will end up, and that is in the dustbin of history. And we know that our role, with respect to what you said, is continuing to do what we can to rearm your defenses. Everybody listening, defenses. To any lawmakers that are listening or to anybody that's joining us in Summit, where we will speak to our lawmakers about defenses. If you are saying that you do not want to help Israel rearm Iron Dome, David Sling, and their defenses, you're not saying you don't want to give them bullets. You are saying you don't want to give Israel a shield. And those are two very different things. We must do everything we can to stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel at this time, and we will stop at nothing before total victory. Ambassador, in terms of everything that's gone on, just in night one alone, it's been years in the 6 days since this has started. Has the Iranian response been as expected?
Yeah, we expected the Iranians to fire their missiles into our population centers, but quite frankly, we didn't know that they were going to, in many respects, collapse so quickly. And look, we haven't completed the job. We didn't expect to go into this for 2 or 3 days, or the 6-day war. Not every war is a 6-day war. We had that in 1967. We're now going into the 9th day. We're going into the Sabbath, and hopefully it's going to be the Sabbath of this war. It's going to be the end of the war. It's going to actually indicate that we're getting to a point where the Iranians will say, as President Trump has demanded, unconditional surrender. Yeah. We hope we're moving in that direction. Look, it's very, very important to emphasize, people have said, well, the Prime Minister of Israel has been warning about this for 15 years, and, it hasn't happened, and maybe we can go for another 15 years without the threat of a nuclear annihilation. Well, first of all, I would say, you don't take a chance with nuclear annihilation, number one. Number two, the head of the CIA, I believe it was yesterday at a Senate hearing, made the very important point. He says, if a quarterback marches the team down the field 99 yards, right, and then gets to 99 yards and 35 inches, he's got 1 inch to go over to the end zone. What are you going to do? You're going to say, well, he's probably not going to do it. We're going to let him stop at 99 on the 99th yard. Obviously not. He's obviously driving to the end zone. So when people say, well, the Iranians didn't take a decision yet to go nuclear, if you bring them to the 99th yard, they're going to go into the end zone. And we have to learn from history. It's so important that we learn from history. We don't learn enough history because history does indeed repeat itself. And, in 1923, there was a little guy, an Austrian with a mustache, who was running around Europe saying that, well, we need to conquer this country, we need to conquer that country, and you owe us this, and you owe us that. And he said, the Jews, by the way, are the biggest problem we have, and we need to annihilate them. Well, nobody paid attention. And it took 15 years, exactly 15 years, what they're accusing now the prime minister of needlessly worrying the world for 15 years. Well, it took 15 years, but in 1938, he had the political and military power to implement his plans. And the result was a Second World War, 65 million people dead, and 6 million Jews gassed. There was one man at the time who warned the world and said, don't appease this guy. He means what he says. Mm-hmm. And what did they say to Winston Churchill? They said, oh, you're a warmonger. Sure. You know, you're taking us into endless wars. But Winston Churchill was trying to prevent and end the endless wars, trying to prevent death and destruction. Prime Minister Netanyahu has been alongside President Trump like Winston Churchill. They're like a Churchill team. And they've been warning now for 15, 20 years that Iran, if it has nuclear weapons, will use it, and we have to stop them from having it. So the prime minister was visionary. President Trump has been very, very visionary and has taken the leadership role in this. And he said 15 times since he came to the White House this time, said 15 times, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon. So we're working very hard. Our sons and daughters are resolute, resilient. They're flying those planes. They're manning the artillery barges. The commandos are ready to go. Our home front is working very, very hard to solidify things. And we're committed to seeing to it that this evil is removed from the threatening us and threatening the world, really.
World. Amen. And Ambassador, what can you tell us in terms of the role that America and other allies have played in helping Israel while Israel is defending the world?
Well, right now, the ask that we have in the United States has been a defensive ask. We've laid out our contingencies in front of the administration, said, look, this is where we're going, this is what we want to accomplish. Anywhere that you choose to come in, you know, it's the president's decision. The president, we know, will make a decision based on the best interests of the United States of America. We know that. And we think that our interests to a large extent are aligned, if not entirely aligned, but that's for the president to decide. Our ask until now has just been one, and that's defensive. You know, we have enjoyed the help, and for this we're indebted to the administration, to Congress, to the American people, for the defensive missile systems that have been placed around our country. Because if we had to confront these ballistic missiles alone, there would have been more damage and more people killed. I can honestly say that to my brothers and sisters in the United States, you've saved thousands of lives by helping supply us these missile defense systems.
Well, you gave us a football analogy, and I guarantee you the Americans listening understand that if you were in the 1-yard line, not only do you not let off the gas, but it is time to bring the biggest boys you got off the bench and put them on that line. And so I don't have any inside information with respect to our American government, but the people that are on this call stand with you, and support our government in terms of doing whatever it needs to ensure that Israel has what it has. Not so that Israel continues to exist, because we believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when he says that Israel's deliverance will always come. We do it not for Israel, we do it for us. So thank you so much. And going on into our next question, do you think that after this is over, God willing, sooner than later, how do you see, you already mentioned Abraham Accords 2.0, how do you see it reshaping the Middle East immediately in terms of normalization with new countries or what have you?
Well, you know, it's important to understand, Professor Bernard Lewis always used to say that the Muslim world has not yet undergone a reformation. Mm-hmm. You know? And now that reformation is taking place. And there are those who favor reformation within the Muslim world, those that oppose reformation. Now, what is reformation? What form does it take? It takes the form of accommodation with Western civilization, with the Judeo-Christian world. Okay, that's the focal point of reformation. If we can live together in harmony with other civilizations, then then you accept Israel, because Israel is kind of this extension of Judeo-Christian civilization, of Western civilization in the Middle East. Those who oppose accommodating the West oppose accommodation with Israel. Yeah. So if accommodation with Israel takes place and those opposing it, led by Iran, okay, led by the extremists who say, look, we want to go back to the Middle Ages. We don't want to give up on our dream of a caliphate, of ruling the world. We don't want accommodation with Judeo-Christian civilization. We don't want accommodation with the West. And therefore, we oppose the existence of Israel. We try to eliminate Israel. If they're diminished, okay, then there's going to be a complete change within the Muslim community. And you're going to have, Muslim countries that are committed to Islam, committed to their religion, but also committed to accommodation with Western civilization, with Judeo-Christian world. So this is a battle with a much broader ramification than just securing the state of Israel. Not that that's just not to minimize that. That's really big and our main concern, but it has a much broader implication for the world.
And Ambassador, you've been so generous with your time. Last question. What can Christian Zionists, in addition to, of course, praying for the peace of Jerusalem, what can Christian Zionists do to help Israel at this time?
Well, in your dad's introduction and Pastor Hagee's introduction, there was that form, that badge on the screen, which said, "For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent." And that means what it means. For Zion's sake, I will not keep silent. So it means prayer. Prayer is so important to us. It connects us to previous generations. It connects us to future generations. It connects us to our Creator. Connects us to the God of Abraham. But it also means connecting with family members, connecting with church members, connecting with neighbors, business partners, associates, connecting with elected officials, connecting with really a society and saying, look, these are our brothers and sisters in Israel who are pursuing peace. And if they pursue peace through strength, it's an example for all of us to follow. And ultimately, it's going to benefit us as well. We're a cheap date. We don't cost very much money. We didn't ask for any boots on the ground. We have these incredible boys and girls flying your planes. And by the way, where they're produced? Here's something for you, Sandy.
Dallas, Texas.
Fort Worth, Texas. Lockheed Martin F-35s. But here's an interesting point. The distance from where I'm talking to you is 1,400 miles. From Washington to Fort Worth is 1,400 miles. The distance that our pilots are flying from Israel to Tehran is 1,400 miles. Well, you put Israeli pilots in American-produced warplanes, you've got a great combination, doing an unbelievable job. I think that says something. It speaks a lot to our relationship.
It says everything about our relationship. And I would go further to say there is no cost associated with Israel, because everything that we give Israel is an investment. They're protecting us. They're protecting the West. They're fighting our enemies and our values. And by the way, using the money that we give them to buy the things that we build for this fight. You are the best investment out there. We thank you, Ambassador, for joining us during this time. We know that your time is absolutely precious. And to all who are joining us, thank you. And to everybody in Israel who will hear this message, if there is a line to be drawn around us both, Christians and Jews, for we are one. Thank you, everyone.
We are one, Sandy. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being a true partner.
God bless.
God bless you.